Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently working on our mining segment of our EVE mission. We're getting extremely close at this point, and that is fantastic. So we have ourselves some active cooling on this, and I did off camera add in a pair of external command seats because you can increase the efficiency of a convertitron by having an engineer aboard. And we are planning on having an engineer on this. The question is, who are we going to bring? We're probably going to need to head to Minmus and pick up one of our engineers from there and do that at some point relatively soon. But we're definitely going to do this, and I mean, this is going to, in theory, be docked up, assuming we don't have that physics freak out that we had previously. But we did also have an issue with this just plain tipping over. This is very, very prone to tipping over. It is top heavy. This isn't surprising, to be clear. We're going to take the convertitron off of here and see if we can get away with just putting an SAS on there and then putting the convertitron on. Now, I believe that this will make us more top-heavy, but I think that this SAS should, in theory, be able to counteract that. That's a hope, anyway. Now, power flow. That's complicated, right? We essentially need 2 full efficiency Gigantors to power this, is what we essentially need. Unfortunately, on the surface of EVE, we don't get full efficiency from Gigantors. So there's that. So what if we put this into radial symmetry and did something really dumb like this? And I'd want to move these up a bit. So they'd be like, say, here. Now, this is dumb. There's no doubt about it. Some of these, like this one, when we're docked up, is going to be useless. We can't extend that. So, I mean, we can, but it'll probably break. Of course, if it's docked up at the time, it may not because it's physics-less, but it's not going to be very efficient. So let's see, each of these were producing like 4.4, right? So what is 4.4 times 8? Assuming that all of them are operating at peak efficiency for the surface of EVE. 4.4 times 8 is like 35.2. I don't know that that's going to be enough. That said, we're going to be docked up with the other craft in theory, because we don't have anywhere to store the fuel on this, right? So we're going to be docked up with the other craft in theory. We may want to have just a tiny radial fuel tank on this. So, like, one of these guys, and we wouldn't want to have any symmetry on there. We might want to have just one of these guys on here. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want it there. What I'd probably want to do is move our radial holding tank back to, like, here, and then place the baguette tank somewhere around here, approximately, and then we would need to, of course, position this. I'll turn that snapping off for right now, and we would have that be somewhere around there. It's going to clip in a little bit. We're lacking in a little bit of space, but maybe we could put this holding tank down here. And have this be positioned like there. Yeah, I actually like that. I think that that's a good position for it. Now, of course, we're going to want to drop that down a little bit. Just so that it's, you know, just sitting there. Approximately like that. So that way we can at least fill this up. And do it that way. Okay, so we need to check our power flow here. That's what we really, really need. So we may need to put the Probodobodine Rove mates into hibernation. I'm going to save this, and we're going to test this on the surface of EVE. So our first test is going to be making sure that we can hold attitude. Our second test is going to be checking our power flow with everything going, right? So we'll turn our SAS on, and we will hop over to Eve in a simulated fashion and see how our tipping ends up going. So we will set our altitude to be, say, 5, and we'll ease into ground, and we'll just bring that in like so. Okay. That was ineffective. So the SAS is ineffectual. Good to know. Now, I'm not shocked that this thing is top-heavy. I'm not shocked by this at all. And I'm actually thinking about maybe expanding the size of this rover. We could. We definitely could. So what we would end up doing is removing the wheels, as well as the Drill-O-Matic Juniors, and we would attach another pair of rove mates and just essentially increase the... I want it like this. We would essentially increase the width by double. Then, what we would do is we would attempt to make this a little bit less top-heavy. The way that we would probably end up doing that is by taking the Convertitron out of here, and then maybe mounting these guys over here, like so. I don't really like this positioning at all. I'm actually going to ditch these. I feel like having our docking port is good enough. I'm also going to put in these guys. Not like that, that's for sure. We'll just need to put it in somewhere over here, and I'll duplicate it and place it over... Actually, let's place them a little bit more centered over here. Let's change our rotation on our headlights. Have them be more along the lines of that. I do want snapping on for this. So let's snap it to that position will be okay. And then let's snap the movement position to be there. And then how about there? Okay. So we will then put in a wheel here. That's awful. We'll put in a wheel here. I'm going to ditch these other wheels. We'll put in a wheel back here just before this outcropping. Over here, it'll need to go like there, approximately. And then over here, yeah, that's definitely inverted. Something kind of like that. But this just gives us a wider stance. And then this can be like here and here. So that gives us a wider stance, and we'll just snap these into position to make sure that they are at the same height. And that also gives us a little bit of a wider stance there. I'm just checking. I feel like this snapped... No, it snapped to the same position, but I do want this to be, I think, a little bit further back, like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to grab this part here, and we're going to make it a little bit more centrally located. There we go. And we'll put the radial holding tank, like right there. Make that more centrally located. And the baguette as well will be a little bit more centrally located. About like that. And then we're going to, of course, snap that into position and lower it a little bit without snapping on. And move it slightly back. Okay. So with a little bit more space here, that does mean that we could potentially move to a Convertitron 250. Now that's not, I think, going to help our top-heavy situation. So we can put our Convertitron, say, here. Although I do want it to be not exactly there. I would like it to be, say, more like here, approximately. Just snap that into place. Yeah, that looks centrally located. Move it slightly forward so that it is on axis with these wheels, is what I'm looking for there. Okay. And then we would need our Drill-O-Matics. I'll put one here and one here, and then we'll snap those into position. Make sure that they are nice and symmetrical. And we may want to move them up a tiny amount as well, just to make sure they're a little bit safer. About like that. The SAS, I'm going to try putting it up at the top this time. We've still got a bit of a stack here going on. Now, to be clear, I don't think that this will help our top heaviness. What we're looking for here is just getting a wider stance. That's the goal. And then we'll put our thermal control system there, say. And then our Gigantors, we could actually have a pair of Gigantors that go over here, perhaps? I don't like that positioning. We may still want the Gigantors in radial symmetry 8x over here and just try to angle it in such a way where it's basically like that, in hopes that we have space, but I'm still quite certain that we're not going to have space for these two Gigantors. So there's that. But let's run a quick test of this. I don't expect this to be fundamentally that much better. So that's definitely something to consider. Okay, so I didn't launch it. That would help if I had actually launched it. But no, I didn't. Let's launch it. Now, to be clear, dropping in where we are is a pretty extreme location in terms of the angle that we are going to be at. But that's a good test location, so I'm pretty happy about that, all things considered. We'll put it like 3 in altitude, ease it to the ground, and over we go. And we'll just see how that goes. Oh yeah, that's so much better with the wider stance. We are accelerating with our brakes on. That's not a great sign. That is not a great sign at all. Okay, now we're holding position. We can extend out our Gigantors. Again, this is not exactly the best way to do this. I would really prefer to use RTGs. We don't have RTGs. We can... Apparently insufficient abundance here. That's something we can definitely look at. Let's go ahead and deploy these drills for now. Yeah, so we have insufficient resource abundance here. I'm not super shocked by this, although I'm slightly shocked that we don't have any resource abundance here. We may want to check if we've got resource abundance at our landing site. That, you know, may actually have an effect on the landscape. But we're going to retract this drill for now, as well as this one. And the question is, how much power flow do we have? The answer is none right now, because we are on the night side. So let's just go ahead and warp forward a little bit and see just how much power we get as we come over onto the day side. And you can see over here that we are now kind of in daylight, kind of. And we're just going to slowly make our way on over. I'm going to set the SAS on this to be SAS only. And we're just going to turn the SAS off briefly and see about making our way over somewhere kind of different. I'm wondering what our turning is looking like. We have none. Steering for all of these is disabled. I'm going to enable it for all of them for now. Okay, we can see here that this is kind of acceptable. Okay, we're definitely accelerating here. Whoa, that's a lot of turning power. And we're definitely going to have to be careful about that one. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be a lot more careful with the actual one that we drop, right? But overall, I'd call that a reasonably successful test. We actually need to revert that back. I'd call that reasonably successful. So we need to make sure that we have sufficient resource abundance at the location that we're going to be at. So let's hop over to the... What's the term I'm looking for? Tracking station. That's the one. We're going to hop over to the tracking station, and the question is, our Eve probe launcher here that we have... This is, oh yeah, this is the one that we did the wrong decoupler. This one here is the one that is landed at our designated landing site, I believe. This is in Midlands, and I want to double check that. But yeah, this is our designated landing site here. And with this here, I'm wondering if we have a way to see... We don't have a KER on this. I'm wondering if we have a way to see our latitude and longitude here. The answer is we don't, it would appear. Yep, we don't appear to have a way to see our latitude and longitude. Well, that's exciting. I just hope that there's sufficient resource abundance here. Wait, can we position it, like, at the location of another object? I mean, we should probably run a resource survey, right? That's probably what we should do. I'm just curious to see if we can land it at the location using the cheat menu. We'll see. I mean, we're doing a lot of simulation here, and we don't really have the simulation data to know whether that would have the location, so it shouldn't give us the information that we need. If I deploy the mining module, that will tell me right away whether this has what we need or not. So I'm actually going to deploy the deployable module so that we don't get that information. Because we need to run a resource survey before we have the information to be able to simulate that, right? This is just checking to see if we have tools to put a simulated payload at our designated location. And the answer to that is... no. No, we don't. Okay. Good to know. Very, very good to know. Well, we're going to need a resource survey then. That's okay. We can do that as part of our deploying of our rovers for this mission. Now, one thing I would like is a method of delivery for these rovers. By and large, we should be able to do a standard method of delivery. So that's definitely something to consider here. I'm thinking right now that simply dropping in with a couple parachutes is probably enough. Like, if we were to put a pair of drogue chutes over here, and then like a main chute back here, not like that, a main chute back here, set up like this, that's probably sufficient. Now, this main chute, I'm actually going to move it to go up here because we're not going to have the back location for our other two rovers. Now, we are going to want to have some form of heat shield for this as we come in. There's no doubt about that one. And the heat shield is likely going to come in... We're just going to put in a decoupler here. A TD06 would probably do the trick. And then put in a modular girder segment. We are going to want to move this to be a little bit more centrally located, like so. And then the question is, would a big old heat shield be big enough? The answer is yes, it absolutely would. What size of heat shield do we need? Do we need one of these big old 10-meter heat shields? I mean, that would do the trick. It's also almost certainly overkill. A 3.75 meter heat shield, though, I feel like isn't big enough. So I think we actually do need the 10-meter heat shield. This should get us to the ground very, very simply. So this is what we'd be looking to deliver. Would we need a re-entry burn with this? That is the current question. So let's go ahead and put this out on the pad. I'm a little bit concerned right now, to be clear, about tipping over on the pad. We'll turn the SAS on immediately. Come on, go ahead and load. Any minute now. There we go. Okay, SAS is on, and we are going to put this above Eve at 100,000 kilometers. Actually, oh, there we go, tipping over. 120,000. Pitch of 0, and we're not going to ease in. Okay, we're just doing a re-entry test on this. So we're going to inflate this heat shield, and we're going to see how this goes. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about maintaining our aerodynamics. I'm also slightly concerned about how rapidly we slow down. So we definitely want to have something like this, and we're just going to test this and see how our aerodynamics go. I kind of expect this to flip, is what I'm expecting here. But we'll see. I'm actually going to go ahead and time warp down to where we enter the atmosphere, which is at 90 kilometers. And there we go. You can see here we are continuing to accelerate. That won't last too much longer. Now, this heat shield should give us plenty of protection. Absolutely. We are continuing to accelerate here. You can see that we're already doing some pitch stuff. I'm interested in potentially testing with our photovoltaic panels extended here and making sure that they don't burn off. For one thing, this will mean that our electric charge will go down a little bit slower. Oh yeah, look at that deceleration. We're actually going to be fine. Our photovoltaic panels did burn off, so we're going to have to make sure that we don't deploy them until we're on the ground. Our battery should hold, though. We're fine. So the next question is, how do we get rid of this heat shield without destroying our rover? That is indeed the question. Do we jettison the heat shield? Perhaps. What happens if we do that? That's about what I expected. So we decouple this, and then we launch our drogue chutes. Do our drogue chutes provide enough power to separate us from the heat shield? Not yet, but perhaps once they open. Now, I'm a little concerned about the positioning of this parachute, dropping us in essentially nose first. There's no doubt about that one. This heat shield is providing so much drag right now. But I feel like this will be okay. I do want to change the location of our main chute, I feel like. And these aren't going to open for a very long time. I think that that is something that we can tackle later on. So we're going to bring that back. I'm going to change the location of the main chute just to have it drop us in theory, a little bit more centrally. We can put it in right over here and move that like this and move this guy back a little bit, as well as this guy forward a little bit, just to make sure we've got some space there. And that should drop us in much more nicely. I'm also going to move up our photovoltaic panels a little bit. And I'm thinking about replacing our photovoltaic panels with instead having repackable ones. Kind of like this. So we can deploy them on the way out there and then undeploy them as we enter the atmosphere and then redeploy them once we're on the ground. Okay, that should, in theory, do the trick. So we are going to do this for the next 2 rovers, and I think that this will even be large enough. Yeah, this should definitely be large enough for our double width rover. So that will be absolutely fantastic. But that is something for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.